Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. After we played Cthulhu Death May Die last week, we're going to step back to our familiar role of focusing more on the investigation of the Ancient Ones than the combat aspect. This week we're going to replay one of the Call of Cthulhu adventures from Chaosium Incorporated as we find ourselves alone against the flames. In this adventure, we're going to take an investigator through this adventure within the Call of Cthulhu system, and if we succeed, we'll take the second part of the video to flesh out this investigator's backstory. If we fail, well, let's not dwell on that just yet. Anyway, in Call of Cthulhu, we have our investigator who goes through this adventure and will be making skill checks using a set of D100 dice. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, here's a set of D100 dice. This one will be our tens digit. This will be our ones digit. So if we get a roll of all zeros like that, that's actually a roll of 100. So it will be considered to have, I believe it's a fumble on that, but I wouldn't swear to the exact terminology on that. But let's go ahead and go through any other introductory explanations in here. And then we'll take a quick look. Got all the intros, what this contains, overview of the game, which I've kind of done. Never played a role-playing except we have. I went through the D100. I'll explain each set of dice how to roll each set of dice as we get into it. And then that's the actual adventure. So that's what we're against this week. We'll build the investigator as we go through this. So let's jump right into the adventure. So if you recall when we played through Alone Against the Flames, Tide, and Frost last year, these Alone adventures all work as choose-your-own-adventure stories. Basically, choose-your-own-adventure stories set within the Cthulhu mythos. So we'll take our investigator through each story, making the skill checks along the way. So just to kind of introduce everything, any skill checks that our investigator needs to make, we'll use this set of red dice. So we've got a D4 on here. I just dropped a D6, D8 hiding in here, D12, the D100 dice, which also function as D10 individually, and then this one isn't used outside of the D100, and a D20. So that'll be our investigator. If we have to make any opposing checks, we'll use this set of blue-themed Call of Cthulhu dice. Then I've got a third extra D6 that we'll need later. But anyway, let's jump in, starting with passage 1. So you actually don't read, so similar to a choose-your-own-adventure book, you actually aren't going to read this through to the end. You'll go to each individual passage as the story unfolds. So anyway, let's jump in with passage 1. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You feel it in your face. It has been a long summer here in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher's shop, the grocer's with its faded awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham, not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you are doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life, and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Go to 263. Alright, 263. Here we go. Two more young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He is a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem, yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket for Ossipee, From there, you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth, before the coastal line to Newburyport, and, finally, Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way. Otherwise, this will be the first of many long bus trips. The driver scratches the match and lights his cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Look at your investigator sheet, and we'll do that in a minute. At the top, you have spaces for 8 characteristics: strength, constitution, power, dexterity, appearance, size, intelligence, and education. Allocate the following values among them, writing them in the large square beside each: a 40, 3 50s, 2 60s, a 70, and an 80. If you would like more information about what these characteristics mean, read page 7 of book 2. When you have done that, go back to passage 8. So I'll make note of the values over here. So we've got a 40, 50, and we have 3 of those. 2 60s, a 70, and an 80. With that, we'll move over to the character sheet for the first time. So these are the various characteristics. These are the boxes that they're talking about. So we've actually got 3 boxes up here. It'll tell us later to deal with the 2 smaller boxes, but I'm going to deal with them now while I'm at it, basically. So each of the characteristics that we're looking at here, we've got strength, which is basically just think the physical strength of the character, like your muscle strength. Constitution is your health and your vitality and all of that. Size is the height and weight into a single number, basically letting you see over walls, squeeze through small openings, stuff like that. Dexterity is basically your agility and flexibility. Appearance is the physical attractiveness and your personality. Intelligence is how well you learn and analyze information, all of that. Power is like your force of will, basically your mystical power, I guess is the way I'd put that. And education is the factual knowledge possessed by the investigator. So that's how all of that works. Now, as we remember our characteristics, this character I kind of want to be a little bit more book smart and kind of in tune with the mystical world. So I think we're going to go with a power of... I think we're going to allocate the stats like this. So I'm going to turn that. We're going to have a power of 80. Let me see if I can make this a little bit more legible. So 80. And then the other 2 boxes up here, that'll be the half value, and that'll be the 5th value. So if we need to make a... So as I might have mentioned, I don't know if I actually mentioned this, when you make a skill check, you need to be at or below whatever skill value you assign for whatever skill value you have into that skill. So, for example, say we need to make like a power check for some reason. We would need to be at or under an 80 to pass that. So that's how that works out. Similarly, the boxes up here, like I mentioned briefly, will be for half value and 5th value. So in this case, it'll be 40 and 16 as we divide 80 by 5. So if we need to make a hard skill check, we'll be up against the half value, once again needing to be at or below that. If we need to make an extreme check, we'll be up against the 5th value on that. So the 80's been assigned. The 70 for this character, I'm going to put into education. So that'll be 70, 35, and 70 divided by 5 is 14. So the 70's been used. 60s, I'm going to put 60s into constitution and appearance. Because I want this character to look reasonably decent, but at the same time have a somewhat appealing personality. So 30 and 12, 30 and 12. 60s, and then 50 will go into intelligence, dexterity, and size. 25, 10, 25, 10, 25, 10, and the 40 will go into strength. This This is not a character who's going to be very, like, muscle strong. Like I said, this character is going to be more about the mind. But that's kind of what I tend to build in these tabletop role-playing games. But anyway, that is the characteristics. Now let's go back to the book, and we'll be moving back to passage 8. We're back to the book here. Here's passage 8. Let me zoom in on this. Oh, that's as zoomed in as it can go. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38. Size is just barely higher than 40 at 50. So we go to passage 38. Here we go. The driver continues to enjoy his cigarette, watching with keen interest as you struggle with the cases. You grit your teeth and heave the second one into place. Perhaps the residents of Arkham will have better manners. Go to 233. Okay. $233. I think we'll kind of come back to holding the book like this. Make it a little easier to read. 233. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it, too, is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see 2 smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic value. Have each value, rounding down, and write the result in the upper right box. Also divide each result by 5, again rounding down, and write the result in the lower right box. We will use these numbers later. If you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, you'll see that it does all of the math for you, except we did all of that already when we were setting up initial characteristics, so we've killed that bird off already. In the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power, and beginning magic points are the same as the value you've just assigned for power divided by 5. Mark these on the tracks, then go to 134. So we'll bring the character sheet back into shot for a second. And it said, beginning sanity is your original power, so we're starting at an 80. And then beginning magic points is power divided by 5. So we start off with 16 magic points. So 16 magic points there. And now we'll go to 134. 134. Here we go. $134. The coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. The leaves are turning and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Add size and constitution together, then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but it is unlikely to exceed the starting value. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. Multiply your 3d6 by 5 to get your beginning luck score and mark it on your investigator sheet. Now you must make a roll against your dexterity. Roll d100. This means rolling 2 10-sided dice and using one value for tens and one value for the units, unless one unit is clearly a tens die and one will be, as we saw earlier. If you roll equal to your dex or less, you pass. If you rolled greater than your dex, you failed. And they talk about you may be tempted to skip rolls, yada, yada, yada. If you pass the dex roll, go to 261. If you fail, go to 59. So first we'll continue our character setup. So add size and constitution together, then divide by 10. So as we see in the character sheet, I'll bring it down. Our size plus constitution... size plus constitution is 110. Divided by 10, that gives us a starting hit points of 11. We also have a luck score, so we'll zoom out a little bit, bring the dice. So we'll zoom out a bit and bring the dice tower into shot. Then it'll be 3d6 times 5. So there's our 3d6. And we'll multiply this by 5. 322, so 7 times 5. Ooh, that is a pretty bad luck. So we start off with a luck of 35. Now, what luck can be used for, you can use luck to manipulate dice rolls. So basically, as an example, I'll explain a little bit more because I do have to make a skill test anyway here. So I have to test against dexterity. So I have to make a dex check. So we're looking to beat a 50. Here's our D100 dice from earlier. So we'll go ahead and make this check, and I'll explain a little bit more about what luck is used for once I make this roll. So I actually passed that, but what luck is... I'm actually going to end up passing that roll because I needed to be at or below my dex value, which I rolled a 35 here. So what luck is used for here, let's say that had been reversed, and that had been a 53 instead of the 35 I rolled. Now, I could use 3 points of luck to bring that down to a 50 and pass the roll, but I'd lose the value off of my luck permanently. So that's what luck is used for. But once again, just refresh our memory, we did roll a 35, so I have passed the dex roll, which means I go to 261. All right. $261. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab hold of the seat in front just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road and your driver has had to swerve to avoid this steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance, but the driver has already returned. He backs the coach up a bit and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. Go to 71. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to jar the camera there. So we go to passage 71. Alright, so 71. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fellow is dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he is driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your investigator and record it on your investigator sheet. You may add your age. For the purposes of this investigator, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. So the name we're going to make up for this character is... And actually, I'm going to make a quick note on the player. Our name for this character will be... You know what? I need a way to explain the high power, the high mystical attunement. So, how about Lee Waitley? I'll explain that away. I've got something of a plan with that, but we'll see if Lee makes it through the. We'll see if Lee is able to make it through this adventure before I go. You can fans of the mythos will probably guess where I'm going with this story with that last name, but we'll see if it pans out. Age, I think we'll say, is 25. Obviously male. We're gonna call birthplace. Let's say birthplace is. How about San Francisco? Nope. I'll figure out a way to bring that into the story later. But anyway, come back to our passage. The coach turns onto a narrower road, which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I've ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? A special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. A job, eh? What's your line? Choose an occupation for your character from the following options. If you're an antiquarian, go to 102. If you're a doctor of medicine, go to 226. If you're a journalist, go to 239. If you're a private investigator, go to 249. If you're a professor, go to 265. I think Lee is going to be a journalist. So we'll go to 239. All right. 239. You mentioned the reporter's job, which you secured at the Arkham Gazette on the strength of a few freelance pieces in your local newspaper. It will be a relief to get away from vapid society columns and whimsical stories. You understand the Gazette covers everything from the breakthroughs of researchers at Miskatonic University to the most sordid exploits of local ne'er-do-wells. It should be something to get your teeth into, at any rate. A writer? For a newspaper? Silas seems confused, as if he thought the stories somehow wrote themselves. Apparently Silas isn't much of a newsman, but anyway. Your credit rating skill is 20%. Your occupation skills are art, craft, photography, history, library use, own language, psychology, and one of either charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade. You may pick any two other skills except Cthulhu mythos as personal specialties. Allocate the following values among these occupation skills, writing them in the large square beside each. 70, 60, 260s, 350s, and 240s. Ignore any starting value already mentioned on the investigator sheet. Then go to 128. So we'll come back. So we'll move over to the investigator sheet, but I need to make some notes on these. Okay, so now we're looking at the investigator's skills. The skills I've chosen for his occupation skills were art, craft, photography, history, library use, own language, which will be English, psychology, and we chose persuade. The other two skills I've chosen are spot hidden and occult. Spot hidden, I figure, as a reporter, he probably needs to be able to explain, he probably needs to be able to find things that most people aren't going to tell him about. And then occult, because his personal specialty as a reporter happens to be the occult. So we'll work that in that way. But anyway, let's go ahead and start assigning these skill values. So we'll set up art, craft, photography. We'll give a 70 to a spot hidden. 35, 14. So spot hidden and the 70 are gone. English. Oh yes, and his credit rating was also 20, 10, 4. I'm doing the half and fifth values as well, as you can probably guess. So we've got that taken care of. We'll give a 60 to his photography. 30, 12. So then we have another 60 to dole out. We'll give it to English. Okay, so that's the other 60. And we've got 50s. We'll give 50 to psychology. 25, 10. 50 to persuade. And occult. And then library use and history are both going to get 40s. Library use and history. That's right. Okay. So now we go to passage. So now we go to 128. Let me zoom this out just a touch. There we go. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into hazy clouds. There is no settlement. Not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be two white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you are making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills, listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half your dex. Choose 4 skills, which are not your occupation skills, nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of these by 20 points. At this point, you may like to calculate half and 1/5 values for each skill in the same way, yada yada yada. Okay, then now go to 144. So I've been doing the half and fifth calculations as we go through this. But now we get to pick 4 skills, which are going to be his personal interest skills. So I think we'll pick Fighting Brawl as one of his. So that'll boost by 20. So that'll turn into a 45. Half for that will be 22 as we round down. Fifth will be 9. So that's 1. We'll take... We'll take Psychoanalysis as another one, because I figure he sometimes needs to be able to read people. So Psychoanalysis, half on that will be 10. Base will once again be 4. Then we'll take Stealth, because he's got to be able to sneak into places. So boost those by 20. And the last skill will boost Listen. As the same previous explanation. But yeah, like I said, we've been doing half and 1/5 skills as we've been going. So now go to 144. Okay. 144. The motor coach rattles on through the hills and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view. A settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen of Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings. Low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. This is a roll equal to or less than half the skill value in the upper right box, and you may attempt only one skill. If you roll a success against Drive Auto, go to 174. If you roll a hard success against Psychology, go to 162. If you fail your roll, go to 194. So it might be a little hard to tell. I'm going to have to zoom in on the character sheet. But we see that we've got a Psychology of 50, which means we'd be rolling against a 25 on a hard success there. Or Drive Auto, which is a base skill of 20. So it's not much better, but we're going to try a hard roll against Psychology. So remember, we need to be at or below 25 to pass this skill check. But we'll zoom out and get the dice tower in shot. And we see a roll of a 38, so we came close, and I don't want to spend 13 luck to make that a pass, so I think we're going to have to eat the fail on that one. So we go to passage 194. We'll zoom in a little bit. Silas opens the engine compartment and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hands on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead. Miles from any place. I only come through twice a week. But the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning and we'll see how we stand. To look for May Ledbetter's house, go to 267. To ask Silas where he will spend the night, go to 251. To challenge Silas about the breakdown, go to 257. Let's just go look for May Ledbetter's house. So we'll go to 267. "267. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. Go to 4. Passage 4 it is. Here we are. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice is a slight Irish lilt, and I will not try to imitate it. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings, but it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Amberhead for the festival? Asks May. To explain what happened with Silas and the coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival, go to 21. We might as well explain what happened with Silas. So we go to 14. May shakes her head and you glimpse a moment of deep-seated anger in her green eyes. He always drives too fast. Thinks the road is made for him and him alone. He hit a mare some years back. That was a terrible thing. You should have seen the state of the coach. You'd be surprised at the damage done. She sips her tea and gazes past you into the corner of the room. With living here, though, we can't afford to antagonize the man. He's about the only link we have to the world at large, and he's not a bad soul at heart. I suppose that going the same route for 15 years makes a man careless. You have to forgive him. May goes silent for a long moment. Then her eyes flick back to you. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. To talk to May some more, go to 31. To walk around and get your bearings, go to 75. To turn in for an early night, go to 63. I need to take a small break and sit down, but after that, I think we'll walk around and get our bearings for the night. Walk around and get our bearings. Alright, now we're back, so now we're going to go get our bearings. And that was entry 75. May's brow creases when you announce your intention to take a stroll. Mind how you go, she says. Emberhead's surrounded by cliffs, and we don't have your fancy street lamps here. Take the lantern and watch your step. Outside, you see what she means. The sky is overcast, and only a few glimmers of moonlight peek from the clouds. Without the heavy lantern, you would be walking in near total darkness. You cannot hope to get an overview of the village tonight. Maze Street is a narrow passage hemmed in by squat, dark dwellings. At the end, however, it opens up. A wide thoroughfare leads off to your right. A crude sign names it Silbury Street. To the left, a few yards away, I'll zoom in on this just a little bit. There we go. Your light picks out the crooked posts of a simple fence, and beyond that, the ground drops away into darkness. You take a couple steps closer, but you can see nothing. Air from below cools your face, then some instinct makes you look around. Go to 86. An ink-black figure stands in the road about 20 yards behind you. It stares at you. You form the sudden impression that it will run at you and throw you over the cliff edge. This is unsettling. Seeing it's been spotted, the figure slips down an alley. To return to the safety of the Ledbetter house, go to 100. To confront the dark figure, go to 121. Let's confront the dark figure. Seems viable. As you approach, the figure takes a pace back, and then another. It slips down an alley between two buildings. To catch your target, you must make a track roll. If you succeed, go to 141. If you fail, go to 130. So our track we see is a base of 10. So we do not have very good odds of this at all. Especially when we remember that it's pitch black outside. But we'll give this a shot anyway. So we'll zoom out, get the dice tower back in shot. And we see a 72. I'm not spending all 35 of my luck to bring that down, so that's a fail. That is a pretty hard fail, so go to 130. The figure moves fast, with almost silent steps. You are hampered with a heavy lantern in an unfamiliar environment. You emerge from the alley into a dusty courtyard, and can detect no sign of your quarry. You scratch around for a few minutes, but the figure is gone. It seems unwise to continue your stroll through unknown, dark streets while his threatening presence is abroad. You head back to the Ledbetter house. May lets you in and settles back in her chair. Soon she begins to yawn. I believe I'll turn in. When do you like your breakfast? Go to 63. Okay, sounds fun. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door, securely closed. May Tutts, the young lady of the house, she'll have been listening to us. Ruth, come and greet our guest. There's a short pause, then the door creaks open. Two wide eyes peer at you from the gap between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth. 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It is a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. Now go to 154. So we find ourselves in a strange town, not sure what's going on, but let's see, 154. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscopic inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking the sleep from your eyes. It is quite cold. If you have taken any damage, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. Now go to 166. Okay, that was interesting. So 166. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye as she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. Otherwise, go to 192. Well, we didn't succeed at the only skill roll that we made, so we go straight to 192. You are already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully, Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seems to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch, still 20 minutes early, and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the end of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There is no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts, but you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. Go to 218. Oh, great. I don't trust this situation at all. 218. May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forget something? When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternative transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here is anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Something seems sketchy here. You wander the streets of Emberhead without a particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. You may now ask about transport at the local general store, go to 16. Seek out the village hall, go to 84. Walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, go to 115. Examine the large metal structure, go to 57. Explore the church, go to 34. Or look for local people with their own transport needs, go to 96. Alright, well, of these choices, we'll bring it back in shot. Let's start off with the village hall, so 84. Okay. Alright. 84. The village hall backs against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year, says a gray-garbed woman passing by. Best come back this afternoon. You ask whether the office has a telegraph. Don't know, she shrugs. Who would we call? You will have to try again later. Go to 25. Stranded with no way to communicate with the outside world. Oh joy. 25. You are beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? And we probably will. You may choose another option from those below. Don't repeat a previous choice. Once you've tried 4 options, or before that if you're ready to move on, go to 3. Ask about transport at the local general store, go to 16. Seek out the village hall, go to 84. Walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, go to 115. Examine the large yada yada yada. We saw all these choices before. So we've sought out the village hall, and that's where we got sent here. Let's go examine the large metal structure next. So 57. You walk up the approach, the most central of the village's major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of the nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron, singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up to a central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but are now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes. Are you here for the festival, he asks? That's the beacon. When they light it, night after next, you'll be able to see it 10 miles away. He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood, tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion, but you really must leave Arkham as soon as possible. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 69, otherwise go to 25. Okay, so we've got the dice tower up here in shot. We'll move that a little bit. So spot hidden, we're against a 70 this time. So this should be, well, I don't want to say this is a gimme roll, but it should be a little bit less difficult to make. A 34 is an easy pass. So that brings me to 69. As you walk away from the iron structure, you notice something strange about the construction of the village. All the wooden dwellings are concentrated in the west and southwest. To the east, closest to the beacon, the buildings are formed from dark brick and clay. Does this mean the settlement began at the beacon and spread west? You may check the small box beside the spot hidden skill. Now go to 25. So we'll go to the character sheet. And we'll check the box next to spot hidden, and back to 25 we go. Right? Yes, back to 25. Alright, so that brings us back to our choices again. So we've already sought out the village hall and struck out. We examined the large metal structure. Let's go to 96 next and look for local people with their own transport needs. So entry 96. Here we are. Not far from the Ledbetter house, on the north side of Silbury Street, there's an open courtyard. The rhythmic tattoo of a hammer seems to announce your approach. The courtyard is the busiest location you have yet seen in Emberhead. It is bordered by a ring of workshops. Some are brick buildings, some only rough huts. A blacksmith ceases to hammer, thrusting something red and glowing into a bucket of cold water. A weaver looks up from his loom, blinking at you for a moment before returning to his shuttle. A potter, engraver, and carpenter each work in their own space, exchanging friendly banter. You move among the artisans, chatting about their work. Eventually you bring up the question of export. Some of them send occasional packages with Silas. Some restrict their custom entirely to villagers. You receive no suggestions about alternative transport. Make a psychology roll. If you succeed, go to 106. Otherwise, go to 25. Okay, our psychology is 50, so we need to be under that. Yeah, I'm not liking the feel of this town. A 72 sends us back to our central hub, so back to 25. Alright, so one more option. Let's go explore the church. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes. Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. This seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence, and the floors beneath it have collapsed. It seems to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint which once covered the church has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There's little more to interest you. Make a ride roll. You may have a bonus die. Roll the tens percentage twice and take the lower of the two results. If you succeed, go to 46. Otherwise, back to 25. Alright, so looking at our character, at our sheet, our base ride is 5. So, yeah. So how this is going to work is, how I'm going to do this is, if my ones digit is above a 5, I'm not going to bother taking the bonus die. Because I wouldn't be able to pass it even with the bonus die. Let's see, that ones die is a 4, so we will give this another shot, but this has to be a 0, or else we fail. That's a 94, so even with a bonus die, we would fail. So that brings us back to 25. And that was our fourth option to try, so we'll go back to 3. Entry 3. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown, or anything that might be called a restaurant. Blast it. It is beginning to look like you will have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out!" She blinks hard, then scuttles back toward her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. "How are you getting on? Have you found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. "I'd try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now? Help yourself to any food in the house. The door is not locked." You glance at Ruth where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. If you ask Ruth about what she said, go to 9. If you ask May about what Ruth said, go to 15. If you say nothing, go to 22. I'm feeling kind of an unease here, so I'm just going to say nothing and go to 22. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head toward their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead's streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage and set out in the hopes of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask for advice from this Mr. Winters. If you prepare and walk out of town, go to 28. If you head to the village hall instead, go to 11. Looking at my character sheet, I don't think we're going to make it too far by trying to just stroll out of the village. So let's head to the village hall and see what we can find out from that. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked Private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. To examine the notice boards, go to 17. To knock on the closed door, go to 24. Let's take a look at the notice boards. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community, and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There's nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly creche services and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks, or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead, or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 30. If you fail, go to 37. Okay, spot hidden is once again 70, so again, I don't want to say this is a gimme, but we'll see. That's a 66. That was close to being a fail. So, but we do pass, so we go to entry 30. As the afternoon sun hits the floor, you notice something curious. The boards under the windows are newer than the boards in the center of the floor. The frames also show signs of having been replaced in the recent past. Perhaps the rain leaked in and rotted the wood. You may check the small box beside the spot hidden skill. Now go to 37. "37. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain you were visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Ah. Well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. Go to 43. Okay. 43. You step through the door marked Private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair, and well-tailored even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. To ask about the telegraph immediately, go to 56. To make small talk with Mr. Winters first, go to 49. We'll make a little small talk. The pot begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winter. Living here? It's a trade-off, like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library, of course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler. And the cities? His face wrinkles in distaste. Too many people. Everybody rushing and shooting. We have a special place here in Emberhead. and someone must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out at the landscape around the village. We have peace up here, halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is that not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. This seems a good time to ask about the telegraph. Go to 56. Okay. 56. The telegraph, huh? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, of course. They're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon? One of the farmers might... You explain that you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I tell you what. Winters pours a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow? It's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. To thank Winters and leave, go to 180. To ask about his library, go to 62. I think we're going to... Let's see if we can get some more information. So 62. You make a small but flattering remark about a couple of the volumes on his shelves. Winters blushes with pleasure. Well, of course, but they're not my personal collection. They belong to the village, he says. But I did select most of the recent items. This is the community's library, you see. I put up the private sign to stop people from wandering in from meetings in the other room. But this is really a public space. You scan the shelves. There is a sparse but respectable collection on mathematics and the sciences, passable sections on history and the arts, and a shelf of literature. He has a few lowbrow novels tucked away in a corner, with tatty copies of Bizarre Tales magazine. Quality does not always equate to popularity, I'm afraid. Winters gives you an apologetic smile. To take the time for some research in the library, go to 68. To leave while it's still light outside, go to 180. Let's take a peek in the library. See what we can find. Winters is happy for you to spend the rest of the afternoon in study and offers you an upright but comfortable chair. You have enough time to pursue one line of research in depth. To read about the history of the area, go to 74. To read about the festival, go to 81. To read something from the sciences, go to 88. To read some of the weird fiction, go to 94. Well, the goal is to get out of here, but let's read some of the weird fiction, so go to 94. Winters raises an eyebrow when you settle down with the tatty magazines, but says nothing. The stories in Bizarre Tales are fanciful affairs of prisons in orbit, devils imprisoning middle-aged women, and mechanical spiders traveling between planets through radio waves. You become immersed in a science fiction story in which unfathomable stiltmen stride through a steaming swamp beneath the moon's surface. Enthralled to floating mesmeric brains, the improbable eerie tale amuses and relaxes you, and puts your recent difficulties into context. If you have lost sanity, which we have not, you may restore 1 hit point. 1 point. Now go to 99. The afternoon wears on. You have not quite finished your reading when Winters glances out of the window and stands up. He clears his throat. Make a credit rating roll. If you succeed, go to 111. If you fail, go to 105. Our credit rating is 20, so I don't like our odds here. But we'll find out. That is actually a 9, so that is a surprising pass. So we'll go to 111. I'm happy to leave you in charge for a half hour or so, he smiles. Please don't issue any books without a valid credit card. You thank Winters for his trust and continue with your reading for a time. As the light dims, you find yourself yawning in the closeness of the room. Perhaps it is time for a change of material. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 118. If you fail, go to 124. Alright, spot hidden this is our third spot hidden roll of this adventure, so we're on 70. Which, unfortunately, that is a 74, so we do fail. So go to 124. Alright. The door opens and Winters re-enters the library. He wears a small, satisfied smile. His gaze shifts to you where you stand at the shelves. Exhausted our stock already? Of course we accept donations, he chuckles. I'm afraid it's closing time. You leave the building with Winter and wait as he locks up. You thank him for the coffee and the access to the library. He strolls away down Silbury Street. Now go to 180. Okay, so we looked in the library, found some weird tales, but nothing really of substance. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there that you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Emberhead for barely one whole day, and already you feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. To do some stargazing, go to 131. To attempt to speak to Ruth, go to 138. If you have a previous appointment, this is the time to follow it up, except we don't, so let's do a little stargazing. Ruth seemed to want to be left alone, so let's go to 131. You stroll the streets of Emberhead. Already it feels like you know every corner, every doorstep. There are simply not that many of them. When you emerge into an open space, the starfield above you is arresting. The streetlights of your hometown always interfered with the view, even on a clear night. But here, in this lofty blackness, a multitude of tiny diamonds shimmer between the more familiar stars. The spectacle occupies you for a few minutes. Upon returning your gaze to earth, you notice a dark figure pressed behind a horse. A loose stone skitters behind you. A second figure stares from an alleyway. To retreat to the safety of the Ledbetter house, go to 157. To confront the figures, go to 163. Might as well confront them. So let's go to 163, see what they want. You advance on one of the figures, calling out. It slips into the shadows. By the time you round the corner, it is nowhere to be seen. You turn to the other figure, feeling a simmering anger. As you approach, it also melts away. But behind you, in a dim yard, the first figure has reappeared. You could do this all night. The Watchers know the village far better than you do. Perhaps it is enough to have shown them that you will not be cowed. Frustrated, you head back to the Ledbetter house. Go to 157. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have the feeling of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Emberhead? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie in the bed and stare at a small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking through the little details you spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevation and the fresh air, but do you still feel safe here? If you let yourself fall asleep, go to 224. If you stay awake, go to 230. I'll take a small break, and then I'm going to... I'm not sure how safe I feel here with people watching me at every turn. I think we're going to stay awake when we come back. If I felt safer, I'd probably let myself drift off to sleep, but we're going to stay awake. So 230. Sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think through your situation. Everything in Emberhead seems to be working to stop you leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that it could not be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention to the other side of the room. Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning. To grab it and wrench the door open, go to 248. To pretend to be asleep, go to 254. I'm going to wrench that door open. So 248. You heave the door open, ready for a confrontation. May stands on the other side, wrapped in her bed jacket. She steps back in alarm. You seemed not yourself, she stammers. I wanted to check up on you. You assure May you are in fine health and watch as she returns to her own bedroom. Once the door is closed, you borrow a kitchen chair to wedge under your door handle. Perhaps this piece of fortification will permit you a few hours of restful sleep. Go to 58. All right, 58. Here we go. You awaken to the sound of feet in the street outside. Your night's rest has brought a new determination. Today, you'll meet Emberhead on your own terms. You may restore 1 hit point if you have been wounded, which I have not. Go to 64. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There is a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. If you were involved in a fight in the village last night and want to investigate the aftermath, go to 70. Otherwise, go to 78. Okay. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forth along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see two figures already up in its superstructure, arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive, but do you intend to stay to see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave town without looking back. You may now search May Ledbetter's bedroom, go to 83. Go alone to the village hall, go to 126. Take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, go to 219. Spy on activity at the beacon, go to 29. Or slip down to the east road and flee for good, go to 7. Let's go spy on activity at the beacon first. So that was 29. The northern side of the village is bustling and you are unlikely to remain hidden there for long. You head in the direction of the church and then move up the east side behind the houses. A drop looms on your right. One particular section of ground is quite narrow and you have to hug the building for support. You may give up this approach and go to 120, which I'm not going to. To proceed, compare your size to your dex. If your dex is higher, go to 42. If your size is higher, make a size roll. If you succeed, go to 42 as well. If you fail, go to 36. So size to my dex. Size and dex are equal. So yeah, size and dex are equal. I don't think there's anything here. I think we make a size roll. Yeah, I think for now, and I'll double check this, but I think for now we make a size roll. So let me make a note here. So entry 29. Pardon the mumbling off camera before I make this roll. Sorry, I'm just making a note here for editing later. Make size roll. That's how we're going to do that for now. So we're going to make a size roll, and we need to be against a 50. We'll zoom out, get the dice tower and shot. That's a 16, so we definitely passed that. The 10 is hidden in here, but that is a 10, so that takes us to 42. Right. Yep. Okay. The turf sinks beneath your feet and stones crumble from its edge. Alarmed, you grip the building and ease yourself forward. Finally, you have a good spot to watch the beacon. Go to 61. You lie concealed in the grass and watch the activity around the beacon. Villagers bring in yet more bundles of tinder and stack them in neat piles. Another shift passes the bundles up to a pair of men standing on the raised platform of the beacon. They are constructing a triangular structure, resembling a gigantic campfire. As you watch, you are struck by the manner of the laborers. This is their festival. You would expect a cheerful atmosphere and some lighthearted conversation, yet the faces of some show resignation and detachment, others, a naked dread. You watch for a good half hour before you slip away. Go to 120. Okay. Let's see, 120. You feel a deepening unease about Emberhead in this day in particular. Once you have attempted 3 of the options below, go to 98. So we've spied on activity at the beacon. Let's search... Let's go alone to the village hall, so 126. Keeping away from the streets, you skirt the northern cliffs and approach the village hall from the rear. It is close to the beacon and you will not be able to use the door unobserved. You check the windows. The one on the east side, facing the beacon, is bricked up. A shutter is loose on the westernmost window and you are able to ease it open and slide inside, closing the shutter behind you. You drop into the village meeting room and pad through, passing through dim shafts of light and listening to the excited chatter of locals from outside. The door opposite reads, Private. Hearing nothing from the other side, you turn the handle. Go to 133. The room is lined with books. In the corner is a small water closet and pantry. A quick survey of the rest of the room reveals little, so you turn to the bookcase. The dim light makes it difficult to read the spines. Is there anything useful here? Make a spot hidden roll. If you have examined this bookshelf before, and we have, you may have a bonus die. If you succeed, go to 147. If not, go to 140. So for the 4th time, our spot hidden is 70, but this time we have a bonus die. So we use that to our advantage. Of course, with a 70, it's also entirely possible that we may not need this bonus die. $79, so we actually do need the bonus die. That's another 79, so we do fail, surprisingly. Go to 140. Right? 140? Yes. Okay. Tucked between 2 books, you find a detailed map of the area around Emberhead, page 33. It shows woodland, contours, and the 2 roads east and west. Although no other settlements are marked, this may prove useful to you if you do decide to leave today. The clatter of activity around the beacon seems to be building, and you flinch at every conversation that gets too close to the building's door. It feels the right time to retrace your steps, slipping away through the window. Go to 120. Okay, so 120. We're back to our choices here. So I think we are going to slip down the east road and try to leave. So go to 7. As you approach the southern road that descends to the lower ridge, you see 4 villagers blocking the route with farm tools and clubs. You veer off and head toward the west road. Your heart sinks as you see exactly the same scene at the other exit from the village. You're trapped. Try to talk your way past one of the guard groups, go to 119. To try to slip past in disguise, go to 125. Or, do you know another way to leave the village? I don't trust our disguise at all, so we're going to try to talk our way past the guards. So 119. What is our... Okay, so 119. Yikes. The southern group appears less sharp than the western group. You stride up to them and explain they are needed at the beacon. They look dubious. You offer to watch the road for them and hold out your hand for a pitchfork. Nah, you come with us, says the first one. His ape-like brow bends into a frown. Make an extreme fast talk roll. If you succeed, go to 132. If you fail, go to 139. Fast talk is 5, and we need a 1, because this is an extreme roll. This is going to be very problematic. So we need a 1 here, and I don't think we're getting that in a million years. That is a 63. I'm not even going to entertain the idea of spending luck on that. So 139. These locals are not as stupid as you think. They grab you and march you back into the center of the village. Go to 108. Great. 108. The fading light from a narrow window tells you afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back, so you cannot even lie down on the rough bed. A woman you have not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They do not meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. To accept the drink, go to 104. To reject it, go to 113. We might as well accept the drink at this point. You drink from the cup. It holds cool, refreshing water, which you gulp down. When it is empty, she turns to leave. You speak to her, but she steps outside and closes the door. Later, you try yelling. Your voice must be audible outside, but it has no effect. It seems the entire village is involved. Go to 205. Uh-oh. I don't like the looks of this. 205. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally, an orange glow passes through the window. The only comfortable position in the shackles seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There's clearly no escape from your bonds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you can't ignore the fact that they have spent the entire day constructing a massive bonfire. Go to 27. Oh dear. Yeah, I think I know where this is going. So 27. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills into the house from blazing torches held at the threshold. 2 large villagers step in and grab you. At least, you assume they're villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks, and their faces and hands are painted entirely black, save only for a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with the red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill fire. You struggle, but you can see physical resistance is hopeless. You are marched to the center street and turn to face the beacon. Go to 117. Oh boy. $117. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see 3 human shapes carried ahead of you, draped in red cloth. The beacon looms larger and larger. In dreadful silhouette, a black triangle pointing to the stars. A low drone begins among the cloaked figures. Unbidden, the word mourners comes to mind. Smoke from their torches makes you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, 3 dancers break from the pack. Young girls swinging balls of fire in spectacular arcs, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times. On the left cheek, right cheek, then forehead. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. Make an appearance roll. If you succeed, go to 10. If you fail, go to 148. So our appearance is 60. We'll see how this goes. But, yeah, we're being led into the fire. So, we're being led in what seems to be a giant bonfire. This is not good. We do pass, though, so we go to 10. Okay, here we go. Alright. Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for all our sakes, says the second. I've weakened the chains, says the third. Don't try to escape until the flames are high enough to hide you. You stare at the third dancer. In that inky visage, you clearly see the frightened features of Ruth Ledbetter. Their dance weaves off and disappears behind the buildings. Go to 18. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up the blackened iron stairs to the raised platform. You can't help but shiver at the sight of the central framework, twisted from past blazes, and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for chain. None of the eyes meets yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from odd syllables. A second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange the burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin deep in a sea of kindling. Go to 33. Oh boy, this is really going to end well. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Behind the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter and... yes, that is Silas, the coach driver, standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on a dais and raises his hand with quiet authority. The frames of his spectacles obscures the red triangle on his face. So we draw here together again on this night, as we do each year, and we give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. We will be taken by the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our streets and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you. All around the beacon, he bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter. As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops into an unearthly rhythm. To throw all your remaining strength against the bonds, press 44. To wait and see what happens, go to 40. We'll take a small break to preserve the footage here, and then we'll throw our strength against the bonds. Entry 44. You're tired, and your flesh ought to be insufficient against the dark iron of the chains. Yet you can feel them give a little. There's a weakness in one of the links. Make a hard strength roll. If you succeed, go to 53. If you fail, go to 40. So this might be a time for luck. So we need to make a roll of a 20 against hard strength. A 36, I have to spend 16 luck to get there, so we won't. Entry 40. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and it becomes difficult to see the villagers. The three bodies surrounding you catch fire, blazing with sooty red flames. You begin to cough as the smoke enters your lungs and fight down the urge to panic. If you have learned a strange chant and wish to try it, this is the moment. Otherwise, go to 65. Unfortunately, we didn't learn a strange chant, so we go to 65. Flames lick at your legs. Your eyes water. You are shrouded in smoke. It might be your imagination, but you think you can feel a slight give in the chains. You throw yourself against them, giving no thought to how they bite into your wrists. Take 1d6 of hit points of damage from the fire. If this reduces you to 0, you collapse and are burned to death. The end. Otherwise, make a strength roll. If you succeed, go to 93. If you fail, go to 77. Well, first up, this won't be reducing us to 0 because we've taken no damage so far in this scenario. So we take a d6 of damage. We take 3 points of damage, so that'll bring Lee down to 8. So now we make a strength roll. Fortunately, this is just a regular strength roll, but our strength is still 40, so this isn't great. Alright. Once again, we're up against a 40. That's a 58, so that's another 18 luck I'd have to spend into it, but if you fail, go to 77. The chains give a little more. You feel that you could overcome them if you only had a little more time, but as you feel the flesh of your legs char, the fire spreads up your jacket and licks at your face, and you know you have run out of time. You have burned to death in the beacon. Why not try again? By making different choices, you may be able to escape or outwit the people of Emberhead. The end. Well, so Lee burned alive, and we won't bother fleshing out his backstory. But anyway, that will do it for this playthrough of Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Flames. Next week, we'll revisit another favorite universe on the channel, but we'll take a different twist on it as we play Zombicide Green Horde. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.